Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Prep Podcast. One thing I hear a lot is how much people stress about the listening part of those big English exams, right? I mean, it's IELTS, TOEFL, PT. They all have listening sections, and those can feel like the toughest part for a lot of folks.
For sure, for sure. And it's not just about knowing the words. It's like, how do you actually keep up with everything they're saying?
Exactly. So today, let's really break down some practical tips and tricks, help you guys get comfortable with that listening side of things, feel more prepared when those exams roll around.
Sounds good.
So first off, right, we got to know what we're dealing with here.
Right.
Each of these tests, they're all about listening to English, but they don't all do it the same way.
Yeah, definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
So let's start with IELTS. Lots of people take that one.
All right, so IELTS, think about it like this. 4 sections trying to cover both everyday listening and what you'd hear in like a more academic setting.
Okay, so like a mix of stuff.
Totally. Conversations about daily life, but then also lectures, discussions, that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
And one thing that throws people off is the accents.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You'll hear British, Australian, Canadian. It's a real mix.
Wow. Okay, so you got to be ready for anything with IELTS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the whole listening section's about 30 minutes long.
30 minutes, okay.
Plus, you get a little extra time to transfer your answer.
Makes sense.
Yes.
All right, so that's IELTS, lots of variety. What about TOEFL then? What's different about that one?
So TOEFL leans more heavily on the academic side of things.
Okay.
Imagine you're at university listening to lectures, maybe chatting with classmates or professors.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
The main accent you'll hear is American English.
Right.
The listening part's a little longer than IELTS, more like 40 to almost 60 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And all the questions are multiple choice.
So it's all about understanding that academic style of English.
Yep, that's the focusing there.
All right, and then there's PTE. That one always seemed kind of different to me.
Yeah, PTE is interesting because it actually blends listening with speaking and reading, too.
Really? How does that work?
So you might have to write down exactly what you hear, like dictation, or you might summarize a spoken passage, or even fill in missing words as you listen along.
Wow. Okay, so it's really about processing what you hear, not just understanding it.
Exactly. You got to use those listening skills in different ways.
And the accents on PTE, what are those like?
You'll hear mainly Australian and British accents there.
Okay, so a good mix again.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, so all these tests, they're about listening, but they each have their own quirks.
Yeah, it's really important to know what you're getting into.
Totally. So now that we've kind of got a sense of the landscape, like what these tests are like, what are some things people can actually do to get better at listening? Like practical steps.
Okay, so think of it like any skill you want to learn, right? Like playing guitar or cooking or whatever.
Yeah.
You're not going to get good overnight. You got to practice. Right.
Makes sense.
Same with listening. The more you do it, the better you'll get.
Okay, so how much practice are we talking? Like hours every day?
Nah, it doesn't have to be crazy. Even short bursts of focused listening can make a huge difference.
Oh, okay. So like even a little bit here and there can help.
For sure. It's about consistency.
Gotcha. So like what could that look like in real life? Like if someone's trying to fit listening practice into their day, any tips?
Oh, absolutely. Like imagine this. You're having breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Instead of scrolling on your phone, you put on a short news podcast, something in English.
Well, that's a good idea. I could see myself doing that.
Then maybe later on, you're taking a break, you watch a YouTube video or a TED Talk, but no subtitles.
Oh, that's harder.
It's good practice. And then later, before bed, you could do like 15, 20 minutes with some official practice audio from whichever exam you're prepping for.
Wow. So even if it's just like 30, 40 minutes total spread throughout the day, it adds up.
Big time. It's like training your ears. Little by little, day by day.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like working a muscle.
Exactly. And it's way better than trying to cram a ton of listening right before the test. That just stresses you out.
Oh, definitely. So we're talking about making listening a habit. Right.
Totally.
Now, when we actually sit down to listen, are there different ways to approach it? You mentioned passive and active listening earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's an important distinction. So passive listening, that's when you have English audio playing, but you're not like laser focused on it.
Okay, so like background noise.
Kinda, yeah. Like you're doing chores, cooking, working out, whatever, and there's English playing.
Right.
It's just kind of soaking it in, getting used to the rhythm and sounds, even if you don't understand every word.
So it's like getting familiar with how English sounds.
Exactly. Podcasts, radio, stuff like that, it all helps.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, so passive listening is kind of like background mode. What about active listening then?
Okay, so active listening, that's where you're really tuning in, trying to understand as much as you can.
Okay, so that's more like when you're studying specifically.
Exactly. This is where you really level up your comprehension skills.
So like, what would that look like practically?
So you're sitting down with your practice materials and you're concentrating. You might take notes, summarize what you heard, maybe even write down the whole thing if it's short.
Wow. Okay, so really focus.
Yep. And there's this cool technique called shadowing. Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah, but I don't really know what it is.
Okay, so with shadowing, you listen to a phrase and then you immediately repeat it out loud, trying to sound exactly like the speaker.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're like their echo.
Precisely. You're matching their pronunciation, intonation, everything.
That sounds like a good way to really pay attention to detail.
It is. It helps so much with listening, pronunciation, even fluency.
Wow, we should definitely talk more about shadowing later. Okay, so we've got passive listening for getting comfortable and active listening when we're ready to really focus.
Right. You need both.
Now, one thing that trips people up, I think, is when they hear a word they don't know.
Oh, tell me about it. Happens to everyone.
And it's so easy to get stuck on that one word, and then you miss the rest of what they're saying.
Ugh, it's the worst. But here's the thing. Even native speakers don't catch every single word all the time.
They don't?
Nope. It's about getting the overall meaning, not getting hung up on every little detail.
Okay, that's reassuring, but how do you actually do that? Like, how do you train yourself to not get bogged down by those unknown words?
Good question. So first off, pay attention to how the speaker is saying things.
Okay, like their tone of voice?
Exactly. That can give you clues about what they mean, even if you don't know all the words.
Interesting.
And use the context. Look at the words and phrases around the one you don't know. They can often help you figure it out.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like using the clues to solve a puzzle.
Yes. And pay attention to those signal words, however, on the other hand, therefore, in conclusion.
Yes, those are important. They tell you where the speaker's going with their ideas.
Right. So even if you miss a few words, you can still follow the main points.
That's a good point. It's like understanding the structure of their argument.
Exactly. It's a higher level of listening.
All right, so we're using tone, context, and signal words to get the big picture.
You got it.
Okay, let's talk about actually taking the exam, like test-taking strategies.
Okay. Game on.
You mentioned predicting answers earlier. What's that all about?
Oh, this is a good one. So before the audio starts for a section, look at the questions.
Okay.
And try to guess what kind of information they're asking for.
So like, is it a date, a place, a reason, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Look for clues in the questions themselves, like if there's a blank to fill in, what would logically go there?
Interesting. So you're kind of prepping your brain for what to listen for?
You got it. It's like you're tuning your ears to pick up specific information.
I like that analogy. It makes it less intimidating. All right, now what about the practice materials themselves? What should people be using?
All right, so here's the thing. The absolute best practice is using real exam materials.
Okay, like past papers.
Exactly. IELTS, TOEFL, PT, they all have sample tests out there, and those are gold.
Why are they so important?
Because they give you a feel for the real deal. The speed of the speech, the different accents, the types of questions.
So it's not just about practicing any listening. It's about practicing the specific kind of listening you'll do on the test.
Exactly. It's targeted practice.
So where can people find these sample tests?
Usually the official websites for each exam are a good bet.
Okay.
Like IELTS.org, ETS.org for TOEFL, and PearsonPTE.com.
Gotcha.
They often have free samples, or you can buy practice books that come with audio.
Okay, so good resources out there. So let's say you got your hands on some real exam audio. How should you use it?
Don't just listen once and move on. Get the most out of it.
So like, what's the best way to approach it?
I like to do it in stages.
Okay, tell me more.
So first, just listen all the way through, no stopping, no notes, just get a feel for the overall topic.
Okay.
Then listen again, but this time take notes, try to answer the question.
Okay, so more focus.
Yep. And if there's a transcript available, listen again while reading it.
Oh, that's smart, so you can see what words you might have misheard.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to repeat difficult sections out loud. It helps reinforce everything.
Okay, so multiple listens, notes, transcripts if you can, and repeating tricky parts.
You got it. Make that practice count.
Earlier we talked about how IELTS and PT have lots of different accents.
Right. It's a global test, after all.
So how can people prepare for that? I mean, it's one thing to understand one accent, but to be ready for all of them.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but the key is exposure, exposure, exposure.
Okay, so like, how do you get that exposure?
Don't just stick to one type of English. You got to branch out. Listen to British news, Australian podcasts, Canadian interviews, American TV shows, anything you can find.
So the more different accents you hear, the better prepared you'll be.
Big time. It trains your ear to be more flexible so you don't panic when you hear an unfamiliar accent on the test.
Okay, so it's about getting used to the variety.
Exactly. It's like learning to understand different dialects. It makes you a more well-rounded listener.
All right, let's circle back to shadowing, because that sounded super interesting earlier.
Oh yeah, shadowing is a game changer.
So remind me, how does it work?
You listen to someone speaking, and then you repeat what they said, trying to sound as much like them as possible.
Okay, and why is that so helpful?
Because it forces you to pay attention to the little details, like pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, even the pauses.
So it's not just about repeating the words, it's about imitating their whole way of speaking.
Exactly. And that helps your listening comprehension so much because you're really tuning in to those details.
It makes sense. Plus, you're also practicing speaking at the same time.
Right. You're improving both skills at once.
That sounds like a great way to multitask. Okay, but it also sounds kind of hard. Any tips for people who are new to shadowing?
Oh, for sure. Start slow. Don't try to shadow super fast speech right away.
Okay, so where should people begin?
Find some audio with a transcript. Maybe something a bit slower than normal conversation.
Okay, and then what?
Listen to a phrase, read the transcript if you need to, and then try to repeat it, just like the speaker.
Gotcha, so you're checking yourself against the transcripts.
Yep. As you get better, you can try faster audio, maybe without the transcript.
So it's a gradual process, starting slow and working your way up.
Exactly. It might feel weird at first, but stick with it. It's worth it.
Now, everyone makes mistakes when they're practicing, right?
Well, yeah, mistakes are part of the process.
Like you mishear something, or you just totally don't understand a whole section.
Happens all the time.
What's the best way to deal with those mistakes?
So many people, they do a practice test, they get some wrong answers, and they just move on.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that.
But that's a missed opportunity. The real learning comes from figuring out why you made those mistakes.
Oh, so it's not enough to just know that you got it wrong. You got to figure out what went wrong.
Exactly. So go back, listen to the part you messed up on, and ask yourself, did I mishear a word? Did I miss a key piece of information? Was it the accent that threw me off?
Okay, so it's like being a detective trying to solve the mystery of the wrong answer.
Totally. And that helps you focus your practice on your weak spot so you can improve.
All right, that's really useful advice.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about studying, but what about listening in everyday life? How can people make English listening a more natural part of their routine, not just a study thing?
Oh, this is where it gets fun. Think about what you already enjoy doing in English.
Okay.
Do you like watching movies?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Cool. Stick on an English movie with subtitles. Love cooking. Find some cooking shows in English.
Right, so if you're into video games, watch English-speaking streamers on Twitch.
Exactly. When you're genuinely interested in what you're listening to, it doesn't feel like work.
It's like tricking yourself into learning.
Kinda, yeah. And the more you do it, the more natural English will start to sound to you.
All right, so make it fun. Make it personal.
Exactly.
So we covered a lot today. Any final thoughts for people who are trying to get better at listening for these exams?
Okay, so remember, first, know the format of the test you're taking.
Got it.
Second, make listening a daily habit, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time.
Okay.
Third, use both passive and active listening.
Right, mix it up.
Fourth, focus on the big picture. Don't get lost in the details.
Good advice.
Fifth, predict answers before you listen in the exam.
Okay.
Sixth, practice with real exam materials.
The gold standard.
Seventh, expose yourself to lots of different accents.
Train those ears.
Eighth, try shadowing.
It's a game changer.
Ninth, learn from your mistakes.
Detective mode.
And finally, make English listening a part of your everyday life, something you enjoy.
Awesome advice. So it's not just about the exam, it's about becoming a better listener overall.
That's what it's all about.
So everyone listening, think about one new English listening activity you can try this week.
Yeah, give it a shot.
And maybe share it with us on social media. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning in to the English Prep Podcast.
We'll see you next time.